Well, hello, Team Linux, and as I promised you, I'm going to be working on a video to help you with for the project for Chapter 14. Now, before I say anything, I just want to let you guys know that I am here not answering the whole question. And I want you to have a look at this video and use it as a starting point to complete the project. And if you have guys any questions about it, just again remember to bring it to the class when we meet next time. So I'm just going to go through what this project is all about, and I'm going to show you that what part I'm going to be covering. The part that I'm going to be covering simply is related to how you're going to write the command with the options and the parameters, and how do you make your script file, your bash file, to be able to process the command with the options and the parameters. Now, one thing you should know that the project's provided you with a sample of options of different possibilities of combinations of options and parameters. Now, one thing I should let you know that there is I would say many other possibilities to write the command, and a lot of these possibilities that are not included here should not be acceptable, should lead to an error, should lead to a problem. Now, as I was trying to get the job done, I noticed that if I'm going to take under consideration every single possibility of a mistake that the user may commit when he's writing the command, then this is going to be a very long project. So to minimize the effort and the work that need to be done to complete this project, I'm simply going to be sticking with the samples that are provided here. Because I'll tell you something, I tried to do and use many other samples, many different combinations of all the options and all the parameters that we have, and I simply start having many issues and many problems. So to make things simple, I am simply going to stick with the samples that we have here. So let me just go straight to let me clear my screen. Oops, let me change the language. Oh, sorry, clear. Now, before I jump in and write anything, let me just show you how do I run the program. So I'm going to start by running the program. Remember here, I'm not performing any task. I'm just showing you how is the command will be interpreted and printed on screen. If you're passing nothing, again, the H parameters is going to be 0. The S parameter is going to be bash, and etc password for the F parameters. Now he said if the user didn't decide to enter any of those, so you're simply going to be using those two files by default. Now if I decided to go with -H, you will notice here that the H parameter changed to 1. Now if the H parameter changed to 1, you're not supposed to display anything. Though those display messages again is just for me to show you what's going on here. But again, if the user decides to go with -H, simply means you have to show a message. It's called usage message. It's explained in the project task itself. Okay, so let's go ahead and put -F, and I'm going to put here X, for example. You have noticed the parameter F will be changed to X. Now here's the thing. I just put it as X, and you should go back to the question, because the question says if the parameter that's associated with F is not following a specific format, then it's not going to be acceptable. In this case, X should not be acceptable, but I'm showing you that I was able to change the etc password to X. But again, if you're going to use something else, before you actually start the process of processing the data, you need to make sure that the format is acceptable. Let's go ahead and change this to S, and let's put it as Y, and you notice that how the bash was changed to Y. Now, of course, I can do the same thing here, put F, and I'll put, for example, X. You will notice how X and Y were changed. Now, if you're going to put -H here, you will notice how 1 was displayed here. Now, in a case like this, even if the user entered those values, you should not process anything. You should just go with the H. Let me show you more options. Now, based on what I thought it should be acceptable, if I put it this way, it should be acceptable. Well, actually, it was acceptable. It worked with no problem, so that's a good thing. Let's see if I took the H from here and I'll put it here. And that was still acceptable, so that's a good news here. Okay, so it looks like we don't have a problem. But again, if I type something like, let's say Z here, Again, you can see here it's invalid option Z. Now I think I was able to, I should terminate the program without printing those messages if that's the case. And you can see here that how Y didn't change. Anyway, so let me just go to the file itself to show you what we have there. Okay, let's go here. So the first thing first, if you go here at the top, you will see that I have the set, the get option, and this format is extremely important because F could be followed by a parameters. Then we put in, I should go back and do something, of course. And then if S, it should be followed by H is the only one that doesn't be followed by parameters, so you don't see the column there. Those are my parameters variables, and you can see that I'm putting default values for each one of them, and the H is going to be set to 0. This is while true, so this is going to go forever. And I'll go case by case. We have case for $1, so this simply, we're skipping the file name and we're going to the parameters. And we have cases here, so for -F, -S, -H. And for -F, we're simply going to set the parameter to whatever it's passed. So if nothing was passed, we're going to keep the etc password. Same thing for S. H, there's no, again, just the parameter H is going to be applied to 1. You can see that we have a shift here, and we have shift 2 because we are using $2, so we have to shift by 2. And then this hyphen simply means this is where you're going to shift and then break, get yourself out of the while true. And this is when you enter something invalid, and we got the exit status of 1. Okay, so obviously it's going to exit, but it's going to continue running. That's the exit status here. Okay, just changing it to 1. And this is where you're going to print the parameters. So that's pretty much it. It's very simple, very straightforward. There are different ways you can actually, of course, answer this question, but I think this should be the right way. Now, once you're done with this part, you go down after this point, and this is where you start actually completing the tasks based on the parameters and based on the arguments. Now, one thing you should know that by the name of the parameters, the action you will take should again realize. First of all, you have to have one action. If H was set to 1, then nothing should be done except echoing the usage message on the screen. If H was not set to 1, so it was 0, then after that you actually going to have to use those two parameters to get the job done. Now, if they were updated, then use the updated version. If they were not updated, then simply go ahead and use the default values. Now, one of the things, and I just remembered this here, he said if, for example, F, if it was not chosen, like if you didn't, like for example, F, and I will put X, you can see here that X was updated. But again, if I decide to go with F and then S and put Y here, look what's going to happen here. S is going to be considered as the parameter for F. So that's one of the things that I was not sure about. How do I handle it? But again, because F must have a parameter, again, because F must have a parameter, and you included F in your command, then whatever comes after F is simply going to be treated as a parameter. So what I'm trying to say here is that when you're going to run this program, only include the -F if you're actually going to use something beside the etc password. And same thing, only include S if you're going to use something beside the bash file. But if you're not going to use any of those, you're going to go with the default values, then you don't need to put anything. And if you're not interested in showing a usage message, don't put anything. And that simply will work with no issues. So, final note, again, this segment of the script here is simply good enough to interpret and get the command that the user is going to enter and put it in a format that your bash script file should be able to process. Now, after this, remember here, this is your job. Simply, you have two options. H equals 0, H equals 1. If it's 0, if it's 1, you just have to display the user's message. If it's not, then you're going to have to go and process the etc password and the bash file to extract the information. Now, here's the thing. Before you actually go and use those default values or whatever the results that the user entered, make sure that the user entered valid format for those two files. What do I mean by that? Go back to the file, the description of the project, and you will notice. So if I want to just give you, an idea here, you need to have an if statement to check for the para h file variable. If it's 1, you're going to take an action. If it's 0, you're going to move on to the second case. The second case, you have to check the value of para f and para s. If both of them are having the acceptable format, then you continue with the process. If one of them doesn't have the acceptable format, you simply show an error message and then you terminate the process. If both of them have an acceptable format, you move on to the second process by completing whatever the task is asking you to complete. So I hope this video helped a little bit, and I'll see you guys on Wednesday.